Hey gang, Mark LeBlanc here from the Alley Cat Workshop, welcoming you back. Today's October 7th, 2021. It's absolutely gorgeous today. Mother Nature is putting up a hell of a show. So not only do we have all the fall colors out, it's a beautiful blue sky, great sunshine. It's 21 degrees Celsius, which is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just a great day to be in the workshop. For those of you that are familiar with my channel, you will recognize these little snowmen. So 3 years ago, I published my first woodworking video on how to turn a tea light candle holder snowman. And that is the video that has been viewed the most by far on my channel. It's been viewed over 18,000 times. And right around the fall season, Christmas season, that's when the number of views starts to spike. Now, one thing you should know is I have not stopped turning these little snowmen. I've done quite a few more. In fact, these are two that I turned 2 years ago that I've yet to find or meet the people that they were owed to because of COVID. My technique has changed. My technique has been modified a little bit. So I thought that I would revisit how to turn these little guys. A lot of it is going to be very similar to what I did before, but there's some key differences, and I'd like to share those with you. One of them is a pretty important safety feature or safety technique that you should follow, and I'd like to share that. But also I want to share with you how you can get better quality snowmen using these improvements. So please follow along. Let's turn another snowman. Why don't we? So let's take a closer look at the key differences. There's really two major ones that I want to point out. The first one is around the brim of the hat. So if you look, here's a really good example. At the brim on this guy's hat, you'll see that there's tool marks, and frankly, no amount of sanding has been able to remove those tool marks. So there's some here, and you'll notice that there's some there. So after looking at this, I figured, there's got to be a better way, and here it is. So if you notice here, and let me get onto the side, instead of turning this section flat, I'm turning it upwards, which means that the grain is supported, and that gives a significantly cleaner look to the brim of the hat. So that's one big difference. Difference number two is if you look at the shape of these guys, the ball on the bottom is rather narrow, and I was concerned that these would become a little bit tipsy, so if you just hit them, they fall over. Now in the case of these three snowmen, I've actually got them screwed into the base because I didn't have a tool at the time to flatten the base properly. But with the others, I've since bought a disc sander, and I was able to flatten the base. That's all fine and dandy, but the problem is they do become tipsy. So with these snowmen, what I've done is I've added a bit of a lip on the base, which really makes these far more stable onto a flat surface. One more thing before I forget. So in my original snowman, I used corks and little buttons for the eyes and for the noses. You'll notice on these two guys that I've got noses made of wood, and I still use buttons for the eyes and for the buttons on the snowman, but I am turning eyes now in wood. So I'm only doing eyes and noses, but I'm doing that in wood as opposed to my earlier technique. Really easy to do. It's really not a big challenge, and it's fun. It makes it a lot cleaner in the end. Third, one recommendation that I made in my initial video was to put a coat of wax onto the snowman, which is perfectly fine. It's the way that you apply the wax that is dangerous. So here's the safety measure that I want you to adopt. In my video, I used a yellow towel to apply wax to the snowman while the snowman was spinning onto the lathe. If this ever gets caught onto the lathe, then you're in a world of hurt, because there's no way that you can prevent your hand from getting caught into something nasty. Lathe is typically a very safe tool, but with something like this, anyways, let's avoid it. What I recommend, and somebody actually recommended this to me, made the comment, is use one of these blue tearable Scott towels that you find in the shop. If it gets caught into something, it'll just tear away. The risk of personal injury gets reduced dramatically. So I started off with a blank that looks exactly like this. This is 3 1/4 inch square, and it's about 12 inches long. And what I did is I turned this into round. Here it is, here's the blank. I put a tenon on it, and I mounted this, this whole blank inside of my chuck, and I've got it between centers. All right. Next step is to do a little bit of planning. So this is actually the exposed blank right now is 11 1/2 inches. So let's start from the top. This is where the hat is going to be. And let's say the hat is going to be 2 1/2, yeah, maybe 2 1/2 inches until the brim starts, and then the brim is going to stop at 3 inches. All right. And then we've got, how much do we have left? We have 8 1/2 inches for the body of the snowman. We're going to do a snowman with 3 snowballs. So we got, let's say 2 inches for the first one, 2 1/2 inches for the second one, and almost 3, let's put 3 inches for the third ball, and then we're going to have the foot, which is going to be 1/2 inch. There we go. All right, time to transfer these lines all over the place. Now, in the past, what I had done is I had some pretty intricate plans. I still have those, and if you want those, I can send them to you. But honestly, with, you know, a snowman is a fairly simple shape, so I just don't really bother with plans anymore. I just use the force. All right, let's get going. Face shield on. Started from the slowest speed. Ramp it up. So getting a little bit of vibration, about 1500 RPM. Actually, a little bit more now, 1800. All right, here goes. Pretty nice here. Actually, this is a really good cut. You see a lot of tear out here. I'm going to take care of that in a second, but the top part of the hat is going to, right now, requires almost no sanding. It's pretty remarkable. Looks better. There's a bit of a tool mark here, but with a little bit of sanding, maybe I'll just do a little slight cut. That thing is gone. That's good. All right. Time to tackle the top of the hat now. just a couple of pull cuts like that and cleans it up pretty nicely, so we're good to go. Keep going. All right. How much did I destroy this thing? Too bad. Recoverable. Again, the area below the brim of the hat is really is an area where typically you get a lot of tool marks. Just by doing a couple of pull cuts, it's pretty remarkable what it does. There's still a few here, so I still need to do a little bit more pulling, so to speak. But it's pretty nice and clean right now already. A little bit more, there's a couple of and that looks really clean. Okay, I got part of one side done. Let's start focusing on the second side. We're getting, in the end, a head that's maybe a little bit smaller than we had originally planned, but it looks good. So that's what really counts. That's what's really important here.
Kind of liking what this looks like. It's good. All right, let's work on the second ball a little bit more here. All right, I'm going to use slightly different technique for this one. Start off with the skew just to make my mark line, and then go. Nope, a bit of a mark. Let's fix that. Okay. All right, this one's pretty good to go. There's a little bit more detail I need to put on the joints with the different balls, but let's do that here with the skew. Almost ready for the next step. I want to do a little bit more detailing under the hat. This is a sample countertop that you get at any hardware store, so you can take a couple of samples like this, and here's just one. And it's ideal to burn these cut marks inside of Alright, so the snowman is essentially done at this point. I need to drill the hole for the tea light candle holder. And after that, it's going to be sanding and piercing a couple of holes for the eyes and for the nose. This is well on its way. I'll set up for the Forstner bit, and I'll come back when that's ready. So I'm set up to drill a hole for the tea light candle holder. This is a 1 5/8 inch Forstner bit. You're going to see this is going to generate a lot of heat. If you do not have a Jacob's chuck for your lathe, do not attempt to do this any other way. It's going to be, frankly, unsafe. This is by far the safest thing to do. So I've engaged the tip of the Forstner bit on the hole that was left by the live center, and I'm ready to drill. Take your time. It's going to be smoky, it's going to be hot, but just let the Forstner bit do its job. Go small, short passes, and it'll work just fine. Here goes. By the way, also slow down your speed a little bit. I'm at 1,000 RPM. Another piece of advice: don't touch the Forstner bit after you've done this. Don't ask me how I know. All right, so for the nose and the eyes, just going to draw a quick pencil mark in terms of where I want these elements to be. So that's maybe a little bit too much by there. Let's put it closer. All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my tool rest. I'm going to lock the spindle in place. Then I'm going to use a 7mm drill bit, which has, this is one with brad point bit, so it won't slip. And this is one that I just got from a pen turning kit. You could use any size. I mean, it's not that important, the actual size, but you want something that's relatively small. You don't want so we're going to put a tenon on the nose and on the eyes that's going to fit inside of this hole. So you don't need something really big. All right, let me get myself set up. There it goes. Okay, now, time for a lot of sanding, and then after that we will turn eyes and a nose for this guy, and we'll be good to work on finishing. By the way, the base, you'll notice that I still have the tenon on. What I plan on doing is just sanding that away using my disc sander. All right, I won't show you the thrill of sanding. Let's take it to a later point. So here's how I'm turning the eyes. I've got a piece of wenge that's in a chuck with spigot jaws, and I basically just rounding up the end and then using a parting tool to narrow a tenon down to about 7mm or so. And then I'm cutting it off with a pull saw. One down, another one to go. For the nose, it's the same principle, except in this case I'm using Paduk, and I'm also making a much longer piece of wood. So the nose is going to be about 1 inch long in the end. There you go. Just have to glue all these little pieces together and ready for finish. Almost at the end here, so I'm using my disc sander to level out the base, and then I'm going to apply 3 coats of spray lacquer. I've got my snowman sitting on a Lazy Susan. It's just a question of flipping it around as I spray it. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a good one. See you next time.